external phenomena, there is an inner presence of that same deity within me also. Intellect buddhi has got Surya as a devata. And mind has got moon as a devata. Moon is the deity for the mind. Why? Because like a moon, it constantly waxing and waning and waxing and waning. And sometimes happy, sometimes unhappy. Sometimes I understand, sometimes I don't understand. I want to come to Balvir and then when I get up, I don't want to go. It is so oscillating like that of the moon. Then people, that's why lunar. And those who take too much to the lunar are called lunatic. Right? Because lunar decides your state of the mind. If that is so much you are connected to the lunar, then what else can you do? That's why during Paurnami and Amavasya, you have to be a little careful with certain people. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, mind has moon as the deity, intellect as, why intellect? As sun, because it's clear, it's bright, it's formed, it never changes. Like moon, it doesn't change it, it's always bright and nothing happens to it. So therefore, that's Gayatri mantra. To whom? Towards Surya only. Om Tat Saviduhu Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. There Savitri is the sun. There Surya is not the word, Savitri is the word used. Tat Saviduhu, that's Surya. Varenyam, most worshipful. Bhargaha, bright. Devasya, among the devatas. Dhimahi, I meditate. Diya yonaha, my intellect. Prachodayat, make it beautiful. Instigate it. Enliven it. O Lord Sun, who is the light of the whole world and the devatas, I meditate upon you. Please make my mind, my intellect bright. This is what you are asking for. To whom? To Surya, because that is the devata. That is the God for intellect. So therefore, here the upasana becomes more internalized. When we understand this, that's why Karacharana Kritamba, Kayajam Karmajamba, Shavanana Yanajamba. So you are submitting the one who is the controller of all these various deities, Bhagavan Shiva, Sarveshwaraha, Sadashivaha, Maheshwaraha, Devadidevaha. So everything that I do, it is for you alone. Whether it's I am doing by the hand or the leg or the speech or the thought. Now, let us go a little further into this. The person who is a upasakaha, one who is a worshipper, keeps on advancing in his understanding about the devatas, about the gods. Further he goes and says, in fact, there are no varieties. There is only one which is functioning. One is functioning as varieties of different powers. And that is why Bhagavan Shankaracharya wrote a beautiful verse about worship of Shiva, where he says, Atma tvam girijamati sahacharaha prana shariram griham puja te vishayo bhogarachana nidra samadhi stitihi sanchara padayo pradakshina vidhi stotrani sarvagiro Yatyat karma karomi tattadagilam shambho tava aradhanam. You are my own self. Atma tvam. And my mind, Girija. Your wife is my mind. And all the activities done by the prana, sahacharaha. Now your attendants are these pranas. And where is your abode? Shariram griham. Your body, my body is your abode. And your puja is Vishaya Opa Bhuga Rachana. That is puja. Puja te Vishayopa Bhoga Rachana. And what is the samadhi meditation? Nidra samadhi sthiti. Oh Swamiji, this is easy. I am doing samadhi every day, meditation. What? I am going to nidra. But with this understanding. Nidra samadhi sthiti. And how are you going to do pradakshina? Anywhere I walk, I am doing pradakshina of you only. Sanchara padayo pradakshina vidhi. And always I listen to you only. Sotrani sarvagiro. Whatever I speak is none other than your stuti. Yat yat karma karomi tat tat agilam. Whatever therefore I am doing, Shambho tava aradhanam. It is your worship. See how the Upasaka moves from one stage to another. Earlier, it is a thought about a god, a particular form, which he keeps as an idol and worships to that, doing puja and arati and everything. That's what we begin the journey. But then we should not stop there. Understand that very deity who is being worshipped is himself in the varieties of various powers. He is operating through my senses. Therefore, my own senses are his presence. Then you go further internalized. Go on internalizing that. Finally come to a point, he alone is there. So for the second line, if you see it in there, Brahma agno apare yagyam yagyena upajihvati. So moving from worship to wisdom, I think the title is there, is it not there? Okay, it's there. Okay. Yeah. From worship, you go to the wisdom. From being an activity, it becomes an awareness. From doing to being. Where the activity may continue, may not continue, but that is not the important point here. So it is like your child going to school and learning something, ultimately it becomes an attention. It's an awareness about any subject you take. You may read and read and read. After some point of time, it's no more reading, it is just knowing. If a doctor you go to, a physician you go, and then you say these are the problems I have, and he immediately takes a huge book. What did you say? Cold. I said, cold. And then you have cough also. Okay, cough plus cold. Another. Then you lose it. Oh, are you really a physician or not? Are you a librarian? You may refer to that because that is how you start learning. That's why in this country they practice medicine on us. They only practice medicine. They don't give medicine, practice on you. Anyway, I'm just joking. So here, if you are referring, so if you go to a lawyer who is a very competent lawyer, he has sections on his mind straight like this. Or a physician you go, you tell the problem, immediately knows what exactly it is, what medicine you have to be given. Looking at your symptoms and your earlier history. Because he's aware. So in the same way, learning should, or your upasana should make you to come to a state of awareness. Worship should become a wisdom. Worship will become a sense of, in connection with the Lord. You are already related to the Lord more than anybody else. So that is where an individual moves to the next stage of Brahma agno apare yagyam yagneva upajihvati, with an attitude of sacrifice in the fire of knowledge he offers. This is interesting. One commentator very clearly says that this is where an individual offers the effect into the cause. Karane karyasya yajnam. In the karana, in the cause, you offer the effect. So, I am who I am is because of the one life which is presenting itself as ability to see, hear, taste, smell, touch, walk, talk, think. Is it not that only a life, only a person who is alive can engage in seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, anything else? So what is the common point with which, because of which is the support with which, because of alone, everything is happening? To that one, that is what is called here Brahman, the life form or life consciousness, the life presence in you, in that Agni, in that fire of that understanding, he offers all activities there. Brahmagno apare yajnam yajnena, with an attitude of sacrifice, offering it, upajuhvati. So if I'm seeing, it's because I'm alive. If I'm hearing, it's because I'm alive. So that is why in Kathopanishad beautifully it is put that Yena rupam rasam gandham shabdhan sparshams cha maitunan eteneva vijanadi kimatra parishishyate. Seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, walking, talking, all these things happening are because of the one. Other than that, what is there? Take the life out of it. You are as good as any wooden piece. Is it not? What is the difference between a dead body and a wooden piece that's lying down there? It is the same. Why? Both are made up of 5 materials, 5 elements, and there is no difference at all thereafter. When Shiva is not there, you are Shava. You are just an inert thing. Insentient, Jada. So therefore, ultimately we see, even though eyes are able to see, ears are able to listen, etc. These are all the different functionalities of the different senses, all right. But is it not? Ultimately, there is one in whose presence alone everything is happening. To that, with that understanding of offering everything, when one does, that is called Brahma Agni Yajna. Brahmagno apare yajnam yajnenevopajukvati. With this understanding, he may undertake a physical ritual also, but his mind is very clear. This fire whom I am offering is none other than the fire of existence in me. To that alone, everything is offered. Now you see, continuing on the next verse, 26 here. Shotradin indriyan yanye Sanyamagnishu juhvati Shabdadin vishayan yanye Indriyagnishu juhvati Shrotradin indriyan yanye Sanyamagnishu juhvati Shabdadin vishayananye Indriyagnishu juhvati. Now, first one was Daiva Yajna. Second was what? Brahma Agni Yajna. Third one here it is going to be being said is Sanyama Agni Yajna, and fourth one is Indriya Agni Yajna. Why I am saying this is, up to this point, 4 yajnas have been specified. There are 12 total. Now, see, there is no degradation or gradation here. Each are individually to be understood. Now, when we see things in this world, when we hear, taste, everything, with the sense organs we do, eyes, ears, tongue, as you know. They are called Shrotra Adi, ears, etc. Indriyani, sense organs. Anye Sanyama Agnishu Juhvati. Now, when we live as anybody else, and let us say we get disturbed by what we see here, etc., whom do you blame? We usually blame the world. I ate too much because there is so much of food. There can be so much of food, but who asked you to eat? No, because so much food is, what will I do? It doesn't mean let there be so much food. But who makes a mistake here? The food or you? The food says you must eat, otherwise I'll kill you. Is it that way? So here we should understand, it is not the objects of the world that decide whether to eat or not. So, there are 2 views into this. Let us look at this. There were 6 schools of thoughts in Hindu system. In the ancient India, there are 6 schools of thoughts. I'm not going into the details upon all of them, but there are certain of them who have given a lot of thought to these kind of situations and phenomena in our life. Because in Hindu Bharatavarsha or Hindu Desha, there, the philosophy was so high because so many people, so many intellectuals came and gave a lot of ideas and thoughts about the subject matter. One of them is called logicians, Nayayikas. What they say is, the world is made of elements called water, earth, fire, air, space. 5. And our body is also made of the same thing. Water, fire, air, space. Water, earth, water, fire, air, space. 5. These 5 outside, as though the phenomena world of 5, is called Pancha Prapancha. And this Pancha, which is there in our body, they constantly interact. These 5, there are 3 levels of it: Sattvic, Rajasic and Tamasic nature. The tamasic nature of the 5 elements in our body has made physical body. The Rajasic nature of our the 5 elements has made the activity. And the Sattvic nature of in our 5 of them has been the thoughts, has become the thoughts. Please pay attention. Thoughts, function, gross body. So, this is the 5 which is operating in us in 3 levels. External world is only the gross, the tamasic. Let us say if I am taking a food in my hand, the food is a physical matter. Right? The food. Rice if I am taking, the physical matter. Now, the physical matter called the food is made of probably some water element is there, some earth element is there, some fire element is there, air element is there, space element is there. This may composite of all the 5 gross. Now, when I put it into my tongue, a tongue is, physical tongue is made of 5 elements. Alright. But then, the activity, the function of tasting is also there, but that is not connected to the tongue alone. There is something more than that. There is the functionality which is not just physical. Then behind that there is a thought also. Even if it is very tastily made, but if you don't like it, then the food is, you don't like it. So even if it is well made, Bengan ka Bharta, for example. I hate it. The hating is in the subtlemost personality of mind. That is a sattvic aspect of mind. That is a sukshma sarira, which is made up of the sattvic nature of 5 elements, which has a certain strong likes and dislikes. Function of the tongue is not deciding the whether I like it or not. Function of the tongue is to taste it. But whether the taste I like it or not is not the function of the tongue. You see that. That is something else. And the physical thing is another thing. So to start with, the object which is called the Bengan ka Bharta and the tongue come in contact with each other. Whether the reaction to that thing, whether it's positive or negative, is not physical. Is non-physical. It is psychological. So Nayayikas, logicians say, you need the 5 elements interaction that makes an experience complete. Sankyans, on the other hand, say, yes, the physical thing all right, but most important thing in the whole factor is psychological. That is the Sankhyan view. They interact, they talk about this trigunas. How the sattvic tendency, rajasic tendency and tamasic tendencies of your mind decide this. Let us not go into that again now, because there is a big discussion in Brahma Sutra about this. When we go into that level of discussion on Brahma Sutra, we will see there is a beautiful statement that is made here. It is called Antari Vijnana Manasi. There it is, explanation is given. So here, as we proceed further in this, Here in this particular verse, what it is said is, Shrotradin Indriyani Sanyama Agnishu Juhvati. Now the point is, therefore, the question is, the experience is decided by external thing coming into your sense organs, or sense organs going to the external thing. Which is deciding? Is the objects give you experience, objects are the primary cause for experience, or the sense organs primary cause for experience? That's a discussion. Is the object decide the experience, or the sense organs decide the experience? If you start thinking correctly, what will be your answer? Is the world decide your experience, or you decide your sense organs decide the experience? You will know that whether the experience is positive or negative, that thing apart, I have a choice over to experience or not. So control is where? That is called Sanyamanam. What is Sanyamanam? Yam means to control. Samyak, very well. So self-control is not to be decided by the world. It is decided by you. So what you do, when you receive an experience, to engage in that or not to engage in that should be your choice. This Sanyamanam is referred in our technical term in Vedanta is called Dhamma. Dhamma is control. On what? Control on what you can control. What you can control? What food should come to you? That you cannot control. Especially me, I cannot control. When people bring food, whether to eat or not and how much to eat, that is my decision. What they would bring, it is not my decision. And many of the husbands also have the same predicament. What she will cook, Bhagavan jane. Whether I should eat or not, that is my question. Please, sorry for that, but I'm just making fun of it. Damanam. So, Damanam is where you control how much to eat, whether to eat or not. Those decisions that you have to decide. How much the sense organ should be engaging in. So, Shrotradi Indriyani Sanyamanam. Controlling of the sense organs such as ears, etc. This is also yajna. Because the very purpose of, the very concept of yajna is what? Sacrifice. Sacrifice means what? Where you get in, take it, burn it. Yajna is where it's like offering into the fire. Once you offer into the fire, there is nothing that comes out of it. Burnt. The moment you start likes and dislikes, then it becomes a part of your vasana. Then you are again bound by that. You know, something you like, something you don't like, so you go towards the like, you go constantly after, something which you don't like, you run away from that, that becomes a loss of freedom. So, before it becomes a vasana, a deeper impression in you, what is the cause of the deeper impression that is taking place? Because I have a strong likes and dislikes about it. Then what is caused by that? Because I am helpless. This helpless condition you should overcome by you taking charge of it. What? I decide whether to eat or not. I decide how much to eat. I decide how much I perceive. How much I see. This is called Sanyamanam. Control over the activity of the senses. And thereby not having a reaction in your mind. This is what is referred as a yajna. Indriya yajna. Indriya Sanyamana Yajna. You understand that point? And somebody asks, why are you doing all this? It is not that a Gita or anybody forcing you to do. You understand the logic behind this. Or you want to become the victim of what is happening to you, or you want to be a master over the situation. If you want to become a master of situation, then you must know where to control, where to show your mastery. So where you know your own sense organs which are now presently uncontrollably running wildly into the world, and you blame the world for what is happening to you, instead of that sit and think, am I to the world? Let's blame the world now? No. It is my decision. So, Indriya Sanyama Yajna, Agni. Clear? Now, this next line is Shabdadin Vishayan Yanye Indriyagnishu Jupati. The fourth kind of yajna is where he says, one is to see or not to see, to hear or not to hear, to eat not to eat, to talk or not to talk, to do or not to do. You decide at the level of the senses. Little advanced than that is, let the world come, you don't become serious about it. Let the perception continue, don't control, but you need not pay attention to it. In other words, you don't decide whether to not to see or to see. See, but don't take it seriously. This requires a greater amount of control. You cannot close your eyes and walk around in this world. And if something is happening which you don't like, no, better it not happen in front of me. I want to close my eyes and walk. How long you do that? Or run away from things? Let it happen. Let it be seen. Perceive, don't conceive. Don't take it. So, at the level of whether I want to pay attention or not, it is like watching a picture, and at the same time, when you are looking at the picture, your attention can be on the picture or can be on the canvas. You shift your attention. Your eyes seeing is not stopped, but where you are paying attention is changed. This is called Shama. That is called mental control. Whom you interact, what they say, how they say, you cannot stop it. You cannot close your ears and walk about it. Say it, but I won't take it seriously. This is where the mind decides whether to take it seriously or not. That is called Dhamma. That is called Shama. Mano Nigrahanam Shamaha. Indriya Nigrahanam Dhammaha. Control over the senses is called Dhamma. Control over the mind is what is called Shama. I'll give you a simple example for that. You all will know. Most of you know. Right? Because sometimes there may not be any subject, anything outside the mind itself will create things also. Especially when you sit for meditation. There's nothing disturbs you, but mind itself will disturb you. I wish I had a coffee now. It's not there, but your mind will start. So where the mind does not go out to the world is mental control. Not allowing the world to come into you is self-control, sense control. One is path of self-control, sense control. Another is called mind control. From the mind, let there not be any extroverted activity going towards the world. Let not the world be allowed to come in and disturb me. Andar se koi bahar na ja sake. Let not the mind go out into the world. Bahar se koi na andar na aa sake. Let not the world come and disturb me. Socho ka bhi aisa ho to kya hoga? Then think about it, what happens then? That's called meditation. You have Shama and Dhamma. Then when you are with yourself, that's called Uparama. Chalo. I cannot be disturbed neither by the mind getting out or nor the world coming into me. So, first one is, let not the world come and dictate terms to me. I don't allow that because I control the sense level itself. Nor would I allow my mind to run into the world. Even if the world is in front of me. Or the world is not there. So, first one is Dhamma, control of the senses. Second one is Shama, control of the mind. Now, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, he very clearly said there are 5 aspects of the mind you should understand. One is called Kshipta. Second is called Mudha. Third is called Vikshipta. Fourth is called Ekagrata. And fifth is called Niruddha. Kshipta means, in general, mind is distracted. This is how most of us are. Mind doesn't stay in one place. While sitting here, you may be thinking, but after this, I hope Swamiji will finish in time. After that, I have to go to this. After this, I have to do this. I have to do this. What is Shama? Shama, Dhamma? Okay, anyway, something he's talking about. Okay, then what? So mind is not in one place. It is going in all over. All Kship in Sanskrit means to throw. Kshipta means thrown. Mind is thrown. You want to know the example? Go to your son's room. That's called Kshipta. Everything is thrown all over the place. Nothing is in its place. If you want to search for something, you will never find it. Kshipta. Everywhere. You ask him, where is your scarf? How do I know? Hey, you only wearing. I wear, but I don't keep it the way it is. And that's why you will ask, where is the where? Where? You will come and ask, Mom, where is my sock? Hey, how do I know? No, one boy used to throw things all over the place. He's a teenager, 14, 16 years old, 18 years old. Mother got so angry, every time you have to go to the room and then you have to put things. So she wrote a note to him on his table. He put, next time you do it. Every time you pick up things from the floor, 50 cents. So next day when she went to that room, everything is thrown everywhere. And under the note she wrote yesterday, there was a $10. And there's a note there also. Good job. Get going. The fellow is not changed. He only gives the money now. That's all it is. So Kshipta means the mind is thrown all over the place. You will not find things in one place. Mudha is where the mind is dull. Have you not experienced this? Especially after a nice lunch in the Sunday afternoon? Or Friday evening, that's the best thing. After a cocktail party. Mood. Not available. Mood me nahi. So mind has become mooda. Mooda means it just become deluded, unclear. It's not disturbed, but nothing to think. Thinking is not happening. Chal mere bhai. Go and hug a lamppost and say, Uncle, how are you doing nowadays? That's called mooda. Mind has become totally deluded. Not seeing things clearly. Mooda. The third one is called Vikshipta. Vikshipta means in general distracted, but once in a while it becomes very calm. Probably some of you have experienced this. Swamiji, when I come to the temple and sit down, it becomes so calm. Yes, we have packets of calmness hanging around there. When you walk in, it just falls on your head. It is not something which is happening from outside. Your mind have found some amount of distractionless peace once in a while. When you're doing the prayer, or when you're doing the japa, or you are in a temple, or you're sitting and quietly and doing meditation. There is some amount of glimpses of peace inside. That's called Vikshipta. But when you continue to engage in systematically a disciplined manner of doing upasana or worship of the Lord or any such activity where you are making your mind exclusively available for a particular action for a longer period of time, one-pointedly, that's called ekagrata. Ekagrata means one-pointed. So we can discipline the mind to focus on something. So that is the fourth condition of the mind. It is one-pointedly available for something. And when one practices the ekagrata for some period of time, taking the name of the various names of the Lord and constantly thinking about that and that alone, at some point of time, instead of many names, you take one name, single thought, and with one single thought you proceed on. At some point of time, you can just stop it. That is called Niruddha. total stoppage of movement of mind. That's why the second sutra in Patanjali Yoga Sutra is Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Stopping the mind. That is yoga. So, that is what a meditator tries to achieve there. Complete cessation of mind. In that cessation of the mind, what is behind the mind, beyond the mind, the consciousness come to illumine yourself. So, Shipta, Mudha, Mudatva, Vikshipta, Ekagrata and Niruddha. These are five. So, in the practice of Shama, in the practice of mind control, one proceeds from one level to another consciously. That is why the control of the mind has a great impact on the spiritual development. It is not a forceful withdrawal of the mind. In Yoga Marga, it is a forceful practice. Whereas in the path of Vedanta or Jnanam, it is creating a greater awareness, greater attention upon what is beyond the mind. So that the mind will be given only a secondary preference. Thoughts are given only secondary preference and over awareness. So here, Srotradin Indriyan Yanye Sanyamagnishu Juhvati Shabdadin Vishayan Yanye Indriyagnishu Juhvati. Continuing on the next one, which is the fifth kind of yajna, Sri Krishna explains, Sarvani Indriya Karmani Prana Karmani Chapare Atma Sanyama Yogagnau Juhvati Jnana Deepite Sarvani Indriya Karmani Prana Karmani Chapare Atma Sanyama Yogagnau Juhvati Jnana Deepite. We have seen that the sense organs have got independent activities like seeing, hearing, tasting, etc. One activity cannot be replaced by another. You cannot say now ears you start working like ears, eyes, and eyes you work like your nose. No, it doesn't happen. The eyes can do only their job, its job, their job, and the nose its job. And that's why there are specific deities to govern that. Departments, it's very clear. Classification. This is your department, this is your department. So, Sarvani Indriya Karmani, all sense activities, there are 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, 5 organs of perception, and 5 organs of action, speech, hands, legs, reproductive organ, and anus. These 5 organs of action, they are called total 10 of them, Dashi Indriyani. Sarvani Indriya Karmani, all the sense activities including sense of organs of perception and action, plus prana. Prana Karmani cha. So, we only know about these 10, which we constantly use. We are all aware of that. Distinctly, they have functions. But there is a power which is working within, which actually gives the power to the senses, which is called prana. What we know as the basic understanding is the air that you breathe. The air that you breathe really is able to activate the senses. That is why the pranayama and such other practices are good for general health as well. Because the way you intake your prana decides how active and powerful your sense organs become. If you are taking breathing in is very shallow, your activities of the senses also will become dull and weak. And this prana that you take in, which is called prana, because prakashena anayatvat pranaha iti katyate. It comes to you. you take in, anayati, brings in what? Prakarshena, prana, prana. Now, prana is also referred as life force. Why life force? Life is there, but it is not forceful. The force of the life comes only when this prana is there. Where a person in coma, alive, prana hai, but it's not active. I can hear. Why? Life is there, but the force is not there. You see? When a person becoming older and older, life is there, but not as active because prana is shallow. Not the ability or the lungs have become less and less powerful. It's not able to hold too much of air. It's not able to sustain the strength. Therefore, the great masters have understood there are 5 functions of the prana which make an individual healthy. One is the way you breathe in the air. It's called prana. After having taken the air, the moment the air is taken, it has 2 functions. One is to go up, one is to go down. The going down prana is called apana. The going up prana is called udana. Air has got movements downwards, movement upwards, movement around. When the movement around is called vyana. Vyapakatvat. Vyapakam. Instead of surround. So surround, that is vyana. Going up is called udana. Going down is called apana. Now you see, when you take food, the food has to be taken along with air. Without the air, when you take, the food doesn't go inside. Try tomorrow. Not today. Tomorrow also you can try. Or today itself. When you go to this Annakshetra, you take that whatever is prasad there, you take it, close your nose and eat. Try. Or even now, swallow your own saliva, closing your nose tightly. Try. You do it? Can you swallow the saliva completely tightly? Can you? No. Why not? Air is not there. Without air, you cannot get the food in, or nothing gets in. So the air, the prana that takes it must be followed. I mean, the food that should be followed by prana alone can make the food go down first. Apana takes place. Apana is going down. And this, you see, it's not only the air that is necessary for us to take the food in for digestion or whatever purpose, but also air moves up. The air that moves up enlivens all the senses in the eyes, in the face, eyes, ears, nose, all of them above. Tongue is here, mouth is here, all others are above that. Eyes, ears, nose. These are all above. So air is going here, but your activities are above that. And these are also illumined. That is also a function of the prana only. That is called udana. Also, when you are speaking, udana vayu. When you are vomiting, it is udana vayu. When you are yawning, that is udana. So udana is pushing it up. There are some more details there. I am not going into that. There are sub-pranas also. Let us not get into those details. It's much more elaborate there. So, prana, apana, udana. Then, the food that is digested, to be spread, the energy should be circulated everywhere. That is the function called vyana. And digestion also is the function of the prana. It's called samana. Samikaranam. Samanam. Samanam is what? You take some water, you say some cereals, something which is hard, something which is soft, something is oil, something is water, something is vegetables. So all these things finally has to be made into samana. One. That process of making everything into an energy, from food to energy, the conversion is happening through the particular vayu or particular prana that is called samana. So prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. These are function. These called prana karmani. So it is happening without your control. But your only thing you need to do is breathe. So your breathing should not be done. If you stop breathing, then none of these functions will take place. Sarvani indriya karmani prana karmani cha. Apare, others. Now, Atma Sanyama Yogagnau Juhvati Jnana Deepite. Jnana Deepite, with illumined by the correct knowledge, kindled by the correct knowledge, even these activities that are taking place within me, which is the life force which is expressing itself in various ways, including the prana, is none other than that self which is residing in me. Again, that understanding with which all activities are offered into that fire of knowledge, that is called Atma Sanyama Yoga Agni. Atma Sanyama Yoga Agnau. Why it's called fire? As I have explained, every yajna needs a fire. Every yajna is starting with a fire. Why fire? Because into which when you offer, nothing comes back. So when you offer all the activities of the senses and activities of the prana into that fire of knowledge and understanding, you see it is He who is functioning through me. He alone is functioning through. I am just an instrument in the hands of the higher nature, higher self, and therefore I don't take credit to whatever is happening here. It's all Tera Tujko Arpan, completely is offered to you, and you alone is functioning in me, through me. So with this understanding of that Atman, the self alone, is one who is, that's why Krishna says, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritaha. I am the self who is sitting there in your stomach as Jadara Agni, through which alone your digestion takes place. So I am present in everybody. Sarvasya Chaham Riti Sannivishtaha. And I am staying in everybody's self. Into that fire of understanding you offer all Indriya Karmani, all Prana Karmas. So that is referred as Atma Sanyama Yoga Agni. Atma Sanyama Yoga. The word yoga is used is, yoga is to unite, to engage, to associate with. So where there is association of the all activities into that self. In that way, it is the self. Now let us go a little into that and then we'll stop. Now, let me see this. Let me tell you this. When I see something out there, the door I am watching, you understand it is, first of all, I am conscious. I am alive. I am conscious. And through my eyes, I am seeing that door, which means apparently the consciousness is flowing through my eyes towards that object. Now, the self is flowing through into that object. So you understand, it is not the object is coming to me. I am going to the object. So what is that means? My consciousness which is within me is extending itself to that object. Then only there is awareness of that. If I am listening to a sound is coming up to my eardrum. But I, the consciousness, with the help of the mind, using the function of the ears, hearing. That means the consciousness has moved from its nature as though to the mind, to the senses and to the object. This understanding is, and then it brings out as an experience. So this understanding, it is because of consciousness movement, then there is an experience. This awareness is called Atma Sanyama Yoga. That in the self alone all activities can take place, meaning in the consciousness alone all things are included. Everything is happening in the platform of consciousness alone. This understanding is what is called Atma Sanyama Yoga. Atma Sanyama Yogagno Juhvati, sacrifices. Jnana Deepite, this needs knowledge. That's a Jnana Deepite, kindled by knowledge. So 5 yajnas we saw so far. Daiva yajna, Brahmagni yajna, Shama or Sanyama yajna, that is. Then fourth one is Indriya Agni yajna, and then 5th one is Atma Sanyama Agni yajna. Right. We will see more of it in the next session. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkhavat Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.